Hello and welcome to the Growing Healthy Families podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Haggerty. On this show, I interview the world's top health experts so that you can know with certainty what it takes to give your family a life of epic health and wellness.
As parents, we don't want to see our kids struggle. I knew that he had the potential. I knew that something needed to be done.
It was hard. We would get frustrated. We didn't know how to deal with it. I was more emotional about it.
Sure that, we're here. Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. Hello and welcome to the Growing Healthy Families podcast. I'm Dr. Scott Haggerty, and moms and dads, I am so excited for you to be here today because today I'm here with Erin, Jester, owner of Beyond Words Music Therapy. So Erin, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So moms and dads, I'm super excited for this because I know many of you are looking for great resources to help your children, and if you don't know much about music therapy, you are in for a treat today. So Erin, I'm so excited for this because, when I came over here a few years ago and visited you, I loved what you guys were all about. So I'd love for you if you could tell everybody here a little bit about your background and how you ended up coming to opening up Beyond Words.
Sure. So I was a music therapist. I have my board certification through the Eastern Michigan University. Mm-hmm. I'm a double major in music therapy and dance performance, and I always knew that blending the two, music and dance together, was always my passion. I came to the Cleveland area with my internship. I was at what was formerly Berea Children's Home, is now Ohio Guidestone. So I did my internship there, brought me to Cleveland. Then I worked for 5 years at another nonprofit music therapy organization. And after that, I left and went to Step Center for Autism and learned more about how to work with children, specifically children with autism, as a lead behavior therapist and a group music therapist. And then I was there for a couple years and then decided to bite the bullet and start my own thing. And I started it with another girl. We were partners, and I've since taken over the company, and we've been in business since 2013.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're here in North Royalton.
I love it, right? And like neighbors, like half a mile away from
literally
us,
down the street.
Cool, I know, right? So Erin, what is your vision for Beyond Words? What's the impact that you want to make?
So I want to create a place that a lot of children of any ability can come for artistic expression. So that's with music, that might be through music therapy, might be through adapted music lessons, our adapted dance program as well. In the summertime, we do a lot of theater, summer camps as well. So just giving them that creative outlook to feel comfortable in a safe environment to express themselves no matter what their ability is.
So a lot of moms and dads may not be familiar with music therapy and how it can benefit their children regardless of what their conditions they're dealing with. Can you explain a little bit more about what music therapy is, how it works, and how it helps to improve their function? Sure.
So music therapy, very generally put, music therapy works on non-musical goals, meaning that we're working on specific communication skills, social, fine and gross motor skills, and most importantly, the child is actively playing music. So they are the ones creating the music. They are doing they're playing the piano, the guitar, a variety of auxiliary percussion instruments. They're working one-to-one, most of the time one-to-one with a therapist when you come here to our center. We also see students, though, in the community in the group settings, and then at summer camps are, of course, group settings as well. But music therapy just creates a safe environment for the child to express themselves through music while working on those goals that they're working on that you'll find with other speech therapists, occupational therapists, physical therapists. We don't say that we are a replacement of those services by any means, but we're just another bridge to work on goals that might be difficult in other settings. That might, music is a non-verbal kind of way of communicating, and for so many of our kids, that's a gateway to open up to kind of communicate what their thoughts and their feelings are, just expressing themselves through music.
That's awesome. Yeah. And one of the reasons I really love so much of what you do is because, when in a lot of therapy settings, it's work, right? And in a setting like this, it's not so much work. It's a lot more about involvement in play and self-expression.
Yeah.
And I think that's really amazing. And so when you're working with kids in therapy sessions, talk about some of the things that you see in terms of how they respond to music therapy versus other types of therapy.
Well, I think challenging goals for them in other therapies can be easier when the use of music, like I said, because you're creating a different environment. It's a non-threatening environment. They sometimes don't even realize they're working on those goals, which is really cool, and they get to do things that they enjoy doing. We tailor our treatment programs to be specific to the music that kids like to listen to, the instruments that they're interested in, and we challenge them and open up other opportunities to work with other instruments, but it's so much about the relationship between the music therapist and the child and feeling comfortable and safe in the environment in order to work on those type of goals. And I think that's the most important part. When you take the time to really build the relationship with that child, amazing things can really happen, and they're amazing humans that can show you so much of what they can do just given the right opportunity. So
that's so cool. So when moms and dads are looking for music therapy and trying to find out if it's going to be a benefit for your child, who do you feel is the most would benefit the most from getting into music therapy? Is there a range of conditions you find that respond the best, or who would be the best responders, do you think?
I think that's a great question, because as music therapists, we are trained to work with any age of any ability. I think that it's so important for you to find the right therapist. Definitely someone who's board certified, because they have the experience and the training and the qualifications to work in music therapy. But students-wise, I think it's important to find a music therapist that has the same type of views and beliefs that you want for your child, as far as the way that they respond well to education and new information. We do the cognitive behavioral approach, which just means that our sessions are very structured, and so our students are typically on the autism spectrum because they need that sort of structure and that organization, and we do a lot of positive reinforcement and behavioral modification, and so that naturally tends to bring students on the autism spectrum disorder to us. But we don't only work with those students. We do have a lot of students with Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, other kind of developmental delays, but I think it's so much about what therapy and what style of therapy the therapist brings to the table, and if that child responds well. And music therapy isn't for every child either. I think that's important to notice too, that they may respond really well to music and they want to listen to their own music, but they may not be ready yet to hear specific directions from somebody else about how they listen to their music or how they make their music. And sometimes it takes time. Maybe we need to wait a little bit before they're ready for that. So, but those are very few and far between cases because we're the fun therapists.
I would imagine. You know, in our pre-talk, you talked about how in your past experience, you had worked with kids that were some of the more challenging kids.
Absolutely.
And I know a lot of moms and dads, if they have children with autism, sometimes there can be concerns with behavior and outburst and aggression. How do you find that you're able to translate that into the setting of a music therapy setting to help those kids to be able to function and respond in both music therapy and adaptive dance?
Our therapists go through training, specific crisis prevention training, to keep themselves and the child safe. So that's first and foremost. We want to be able to create an environment that the child feels safe in, that they know that if they do start to escalate and their behaviors become out of their control, that the therapist can help them still remain safe, keep themselves, the therapist safe, and themselves safe in the session. That's most important for me when working with the children with aggressive behaviors. But we also do a lot of behavior modification techniques with maybe the behavior, and I say behavior not in a negative context, but maybe the behavior is undesired in the setting, and so we might replace it, or we might ignore it until it's extinct. It's sort of, we are constantly thinking about what's the function of the behavior, the response that we're getting from the child, and how can we modify that to something that's either more socially appropriate or something that is the desired behavior that we want in the end. And then on top of that, we are always thinking about the sensory, the senses and the environment, and are there some things in the environment that we can change to make it a little bit more conducive for their learning? Are there breaks? Are there sensory breaks that we need to take to give them that visual, auditory, tactile input that their senses need so heavily to regulate themselves? I guess I speak a lot from working with children with autism, so but I really encourage families that have children who are nonverbal at right now, or use a communication device, or even those who may have aggressive behaviors, to really search for the right therapist who has the training, because some really great things can happen when you build that trust with the student and they know that this is a safe place to kind of express themselves.
I love what you said there, because so much of success in any kind of a therapy setting is trust. And if a child doesn't trust you, if they don't buy into you as the therapist, then they're not going to be good responders.
Right.
Is that what you found as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important too to presume that child's intellect. They may not be able to express themselves verbally, but they know exactly what's going on. And so many times families will say, I know what they want. Like, I just know what they want because I'm their mom. Well, the same thing goes with the therapist who's really taking the time to build that relationship. We know exactly what they want. We know that a child who is 8 years old has the intellect of an 8-year-old, and that's ultimately that's the expectation that we lay out, and we just help them get to that point. So
that's awesome. So for moms and dads who aren't familiar with what it would look like, if they wanted to come in and have their child evaluated for music therapy, and they look you up online and they come in, what does the process look like for evaluation to find out what is the right therapy and what do they go through?
Yeah, certainly. We have an assessment time. That's the first 2 or 3 sessions. It's 90 minutes total, so it can be broken up into 2 45-minute sessions or 3 30-minute sessions. In that first assessment time, they are meeting with a therapist one-to-one. Sometimes in the first session, the child feels a little more comfortable bringing the parent in with them, which is totally fine too. We can get a lot of information from the family about responses that we might have to find on our own, so that's helpful sometimes. And then within the assessment session, we are giving them, most of the time we are following that child's lead, and we're taking their considerations of musical interests and things that they have filled out on their intake form of things that they're interested in. So we build an assessment based on their interests, and we kind of find a baseline of receptive communication, expressive communication, fine and gross motor, social goals, sensory needs. We assess the child as a whole person before we even outline a treatment plan that's specific for that child. And we have 2 different kinds of assessments. One that's more of an adapted music kind of assessment, and then more that assesses their musical skills heavily. And then one more for music therapy. We use the Individualized Music Therapy Assessment Profile.
Okay.
Short is MTAP. But we go through that, and that's really assessing the child as a whole person, and it will generate some numbers to show kind of where's the best place to start. Maybe is following directions, or maybe working on social cues. Like what is the best place to start when it comes to forming a treatment plan. And then after the assessment, we of course sit with the parents and review our recommendations. We absolutely get their feedback. It's so important to make sure the team is on the same page and wants the same approach. And then we decide what's the next best step. Do we like the duration that the assessment was at? Do we feel like it needs more time, less time? What's the commitment that the family can make to this therapy? And our therapies are weekly. We find it so important to do a weekly session that maintains the goals that we've worked on from the previous week and helps us establish new progress from week to week.
So when you go through and you've done the evaluations and lay out the care plan, you talked about your evaluations allow you to customize a care plan for the child.
Absolutely.
So as you go through, when you start developing the care plan, what does it look like in terms of when they start in the very beginning? What would be some of the things that you'd be doing in the early stages of a care plan as an example for moms and dads, just because they may want to kind of feel out what that would look like to start and how it would work for their child?
Yeah, I can give you an example. For our younger students, common goals that we work on are following directions, turn taking, one-to-one correspondence, and that might be with something that's written on paper versus an instrument that you're playing. So maybe you're looking at the music and the music says play red, and then something on the instrument has a red sticker on it, whether it be a guitar, whether it be a keyboard. So that one-to-one correspondence between the music and the instrument. A lot of turn taking, fundamental like developmental skills that they need to enter kindergarten, so that even those gross motor skills of skipping and things like that we can also work on in music. I think music can be looked at as the medium for working on these goals, and yeah.
I think that was a great explanation.
I don't know if that really...
That totally did.
Okay.
Because, one of the things that we oftentimes will talk about is the importance of being able to, have an appropriate starting place and then progressions. And I love so much that you talked about the importance of consistency with the care plan, because, many moms and dads, if you're watching this, you're probably familiar with terms like neuroplasticity and allowing the brain to rewire, and that it all takes time and it takes frequency and repetition and practice so the brain can make it part of a new hardwired package of programs that the brain operates off of. And with all kids, it takes time to go and change the way that their sensory system integrates and the brain functions. And so when you go through and you're progressing a child, how often do you set up like progress evaluations, and how do you measure a child's progress during the course of a care plan?
Yeah, we are evaluating that on a weekly basis. Formally, we send out progress reports at the end of every semester. We have 3 semesters in a year. So our summer semester is June through August, so our progress reports will go formally out to the families at the end of August. We're also providers of the Autism and John Peterson Scholarship, so those have separate reporting requirements that are quarterly, so those parents will get a quarterly progress report. But our therapist, I would say 90% of the time, are talking to the families immediately after the session, giving them feedback about how things went. If there are difficulties in the session that's really not appropriate to discuss in front of the child, we'll reach out to the family either via email or phone call, and but we include the child in with our evaluation of the session and our feedback to the parents. Tell mom what we did. What was the last song we worked on? And then I might go into more detail about, he did really well with using 2 fingers today, playing the left-hand chord accompaniment or something like that. But yeah, the feedback, including the child in that feedback, because they're standing there too. They're listening to exactly what we're saying and what we're doing. So they're just as much of a part of it as the therapist was. So, but yeah, I would say that. And then the more challenging feedback that we have, maybe there's ideas for what needs to happen in the next session, or maybe we have questions about some new behaviors that we saw in this new inappropriate behaviors that we saw in the session, that we want to know what the other professionals, how they're redirecting that so we can be consistent with it. That's something that we would talk to the family outside of the session without the child present.
And that's great that you mentioned the team, because it is such a team approach in helping kids, especially when there are behavioral challenges. So I do want to switch gears a little bit, because I think a lot of moms and dads, probably don't really understand maybe age ranging. And, when you talk about a lot of kids, so what are the typical age ranges that you find that kids, number one, can enter into music therapy, and what are the age ranges typically that you will work with here in your practice?
Our practice, a vast majority of our kids are from 5 to 14, but we do have children who are younger, and we do have children and adults that we work with as well. But I would say the sweet spot for our kids who are interested at this location are from 5 to 14. We have a program, it's called the Learning Groove. It's a parent and child class that it's for newborns to ages 5. So I encourage families, if they're even interested in music therapy, that might be a great start for kids who are younger, because it's run by a board certified music therapist. It's a class setting as well, that the family can take the class, and we're coaching the family along in the class about things that they could do outside of class, of things that they can work on. So that's a great start for kids who are under 5. But that's not to say that class is not appropriate for everybody either. That some kids aren't kind of ready for a group setting yet, that they need that more individual attention. So the younger kids, we would start off probably with a 30-minute session. That's about as much as their attention span and their interest can hold. I would say anywhere 7 to 8 years old kind of goes up to 45 minutes. We offer 60-minute sessions, but those are few and far between. 45 is kind of a normal session time.
Excellent. When we were talking, we talked about you have music therapy available and you have adaptive dance.
Yes.
And so a lot of moms and dads may not know much about adaptive dance. I'd love if you could expand upon what that is and how that integrates.
Sure. So our adaptive dance program is recreational in nature. Our focus and our end goal is to get them included into a traditional dance class. We know that that's a process, and we know that the child coming into our program might start at a various level. They don't have to start at the level 1 and progress that way traditionally. They can pop into our program wherever sees fit. But it's broken down into levels. Our level 1 is an individual class, so you work 1-to-1 with the dance teacher. And then our level 2 is a 1-to-4 ratio. So all the kids in that class have special needs, same age, same goals, same interest in dance. Then we move to our level 3, which start to include peer models. It can go up to a one teacher to 8 student ratio. So we'll typically have the 4 students with special needs and the 4 peer models blended together in the class. And then our 4th level is the transitioning into traditional dance class. So sometimes that level 2 or level 3 class goes to the class altogether. Sometimes it's individually. We kind of reevaluate at the end of each semester, say, okay, who's ready to move up? Who's ready for the next step? Who needs to stay and keep working at the level that they're at? So that those students would go with the dance teacher to a traditional dance class, and the adaptive dance teacher would fade herself away until that student is fully integrated into the program. We've had 5 students go through the program successfully and are in the dance class. We partner with North Thornton Dance Academy, which is great. I keep going this way because they're down the hall from us. So environmentally, the kids walk past the dance studio every single day. They're familiar with what it looks like, what the energy is there. They're familiar with that. So it's an easy transition for our kids. And the teachers are so accepting down there as well to take in and to be patient and to work with our kids as they're getting into a traditional dance class. But that's that program. So dance-wise, we focus on traditional dance classes. So most of them are ballet and jazz-based. We do integrate tap when we have students who are not sound sensitive to that, and tumbling and those kind of gross motor, that type of dance genre for our younger kids who might need to work on that for kindergarten readiness or something.
Yeah.
So
I love that too, because one of the things that we talk about so much is that brain development requires motion. You have to get lots of proprioceptive feedback for the brain to develop optimally. And I love the fact that you integrate so many different ways to try and simulate that within a child's nervous system, because it allows them to get this broad spectrum of experiences that helps to go and drive them forward. And it's so cool that they can do it in an environment that's just fun and adapted to their specific needs, and in a way where they're getting attention that's appropriate for their level of development. I think it's amazing. I think it's so cool in some of the things that you're doing. And I know you've talked about having individual classes, having group classes, and I know you even talked about having like camps and things like that over the summer. So I know you said some of them are getting ready to ramp up here as school's about to start. But talk about some of the camps and things that you offer here during summer programs and others.
Sure. Our camps are all 90 minutes. They meet Monday through Friday, 90 minutes a week, or 90 minutes a day for 1 week commitment at a time. And they are different themes. So like this summer we had Showstopper Camp, which was singing, dancing, and acting, and that's an inclusion camp. I should preface that some of our camps are inclusion, meaning that peer models are included into the program, siblings, and they pay just like our adapted campers would pay. And then some of our programs are just for our adapted and our students with special needs, because they're a little bit more tailored and designed specifically for them. And there's a lower student to teacher ratio in those. So, but our Showstopper Camp was a big hit this year. That was the singing, dancing, acting. We did a ukulele camp. We've done an adapted piano camp, which was really cool. We have an adapted piano program that is matching colors and matching letters. So for our students, they can be immediately successful with playing 2 hands on the keyboard and playing songs that they recognize, and it's not just the traditional kind of folk tunes that are included into traditional music theory piano book. Let's see, what other? We have a whole list of dance camps, all different themes. So we had a Disney themed dance camp, a hip hop dance camp, princess dance camp. I feel like I'm missing some along the way, but there were a lot of camps, and this year we really shook it up. We listened to the families and what they really want, and changed our whole summer program, and it really was a success this year with kind of giving students something different that they don't get throughout the year, and giving them the opportunity to work with other individuals that schedule-wise may not work during the year. So that was nice to get those little groups together.
Oh, excellent. I think that's great. And you know, the variety of programs is fantastic. So there's something literally for everybody.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the things that's obviously is a byproduct of your success is that you're growing.
Yes.
And you've got locations in a few different areas now. So for moms and dads that are going to watch this that are in the Cleveland area, so where are your locations right now?
So our main location's here in North Royalton. We're on the corner of State and Royalton Road in the Giant Eagle Plaza. In that little cubby in the elbow of the plaza, you'll find us. I'll help you along the way. So that's our main location. We've got an adapted dance studio and 5 music rooms, 5 music studios, and our offices are there. Our second location is in Medina, right off of Route 18 on East Washington Street. We have satellite studios where we partner with ABA facilities, Building Blocks Therapy has 2 locations that we rent space from, one in Highland Heights and one in Avon, and then Upside of Downs in Independence, we also rent space from them once or twice a week. So we call those our satellite studios because we send a therapist out there 1, 2, 3 nights a week, and it allows the families to kind of cut savings a little bit with us not having to travel to homes. That's even a higher rate, so they can save some money a little bit with coming to a satellite studio and get our services there.
That's awesome, and it's great that you're expanding into working with other providers, like being in an ABA office. It's so great when there can be that partnership between the 2 different types of therapies to go and get to the same common goal.
Right. And that goes along with that integrative approach with working with other professionals. It's nice to be in a facility that has the other disciplines, and we're working with the students that are part of that facility because we can be so intermixed with that interdisciplinary team. And really, that's, I think, where the best service really comes from, that everybody is working together on the same common goals, the same approach, and the child doesn't get confused going from one provider to the other because the expectations are the same. So that's our kind of number one goal, and what I kind of see for what Beyond Words looks like is to really increase that integrative approach to therapy.
That's awesome. That's the way it should be. You know, it's all about making sure the kids are getting exactly what they need for maximum development. And I think that's fantastic. So if moms and dads want to learn more about Beyond Words, so where would be the best places for them to find you on the internet and social media?
Sure. So our website is probably the best resource. We have our programs and all the forms that you need are on the website. We've got videos on there, but we're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Yeah, I think that's it.
and we'll make sure we have all of those links on there when you see this, so that everybody can go and check all of those great links out. Yeah. And so when they go on the website, so would they be able to go and find schedules for their classes and all the things like that?
Not necessarily. It's not necessarily that you get that you're enrolling right there on the spot. I like you will find on the enrollment form some questions about what you're looking for, the goals that you need, and then I will call back with and talk to the family about what we have available, what therapist I think would be the right fit for your child, because I think that's so important, pairing the right therapist together, and just talk to them about really get more information and make sure that we're really what they're looking for, answer any questions they might have. It's so hard to read everything online that I think just taking that time to reach out to the family, really talk to them, those phone calls are 45, 60-minute phone calls, but I really like talking with the families and seeing what they're looking for and finding the right fit for them in our program, because there are so many options. So
that's wonderful. So moms and dads, if you are now sitting there thinking, you know what, I really need to learn more about music therapy and adaptive dance, then what I want you to do is when we get off here today, I want you to pick up your telephone or go online, and I want you to go to Erin's website so you can learn more about music therapy and adaptive dance. And if you're not in this area, make sure that you go and do some research on it and find out if it's the right thing for your child. Because moms and dads, it's about finding that right thing to help your child to go and get maximum results so that you can just help them to have the best quality of life possible. Erin, I thank you so much for being with us today. This was wonderful.
Thanks. And if you're not in the Cleveland area or maybe our area isn't the right fit, I'd encourage families to go to our Certification Board of Music Therapists, cbmt.org. On there you can search for a board certified music therapist in specific areas, and you can find a list of therapists to call and to reach out to and see if they might be a fit in your area.
Awesome. Thank you for the resources.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for taking time with us today.
Thanks, Scott.
This is wonderful, and we'll definitely have to get back out here again and dig in a little bit deeper on some more specifics on music therapy. Would that be great?
That's awesome.
Awesome. All right. So moms and dad, thank you so much for being with us today. Do me a favor. Make sure that if this is valuable to you, you give us a like. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends and loved ones, because the only way that we can reach out and help the kids and the families with all these great resources is to share. So make sure you click the little subscribe button and then make sure you pass it on to a friend or a loved one. Thank you so much for being with us today. This is Dr. Scott, along with Erin Jester from Beyond Words Music Therapy. God bless you all, and be elite. Thank you for listening to the Growing Healthy Families podcast, the world's #1 source for health education. Make sure to go to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a review. Make sure to follow us on social media at the links listed in the show notes, and let us know what area of health you are struggling with, so we can get you and your family on the road to epic health.